Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. This is MahfuzVanGogh, your dredge guy. And how am I doing, you might ask? Well, I've been better, and so has the legacy format, because everyone is playing blue-black Reanimator, and we had no bans recently. It seems that we will need to play in this weird format for several months, but we will not give up, because we are what? Fighters. And even in a heavily graveyard hate format, we need to adapt. At least we'll try new things here. Next week we will have the new release for Magic the Gathering. We are going to space. But before that, let's try a new Sultai build here. This is pretty similar to what we saw here 2 weeks ago here on this channel. This is Hogaak Stories, my take 1.1. This is a weird list. This is completely different from a regular dredge deck in a legacy, because now we have only 8 dredgers, live from the Loam and Stinkweed Imp, instead of Golgari Thug and even Golgari Grief Troll. Why is that? Well, the thing is, we use dredge here more as a tool to fill the graveyard and find Hogaak and Winternight Stories so we can win through a combo. We can cast Hogaak, sacrifice Hogaak with Cabal Therapy if you cannot find our second copy, making some zombies with Breach from Below, casting our second Hogaak, and casting 1, 2, or 3 Winternight Stories until we hit Thassa's Oracle in the same turn. So this is a good combo, because even if you don't reach all of our pieces, you will just finish your play probably ahead of your opponent, because Hogaak is a beast, is a 8/8 trample creature, and through the combo you will probably create several zombies and have other creatures. Maybe even Dredge Return can return a Barrowgoyf, which is a beast. Barrowgoyf is such a good creature because it can hit your opponent. Even if they have an exile effect like Leyline of the Void or Doubt Void Walker, Barrowgoyf will hit. Of course, your opponent needs to have something in their graveyard in this case. And then you will mill some cards. Those cards can go to exile if your opponent has a Void effect. But Barrowgoyf has such a sweet text, so you can grab a free creature even against a Void effect. One thing that I like in this list is the combination of Thoughtseize with Cabal Therapy and Stitcher Supplier. This combination, guys, can be so strong, especially on the play. So you can cast Thoughtseize on turn 1, and then on turn 2 you cast Cabal Therapy and Stitcher Supplier and Cabal Therapy again, meaning 6 cards in the process, maybe hitting bridges and maybe a second Cabal Therapy, and taking 2, 3, or 4 cards from your opponent's hand. It's like Mind Twist in Legacy, Legal in Legacy. So this list is similar to what we played before. If you didn't watch the last video, you can click here above. I will leave a card or something so you can click and watch the previous attempt with this new idea, which is super sweet. The differences now, today, are here. Boseiju, who endures. We will try 2 copies of Boseiju instead of 2 copies of Cephalic Elysium. We still have 1, but in my previous test, I noticed that usually we don't want to crack a Cephalic Elysium early with this deck. We work more like a mid-range deck instead of a full combo deck to win on turn 2, for example. So since we are a Loam deck, we probably can grab our Cephalic Elysium when you need it. And Boseiju is especially good in this metagame because everyone seems to be playing enchantments and artifacts that can be difficult to navigate when we're playing against them. So Boseiju in the main deck. And we can grab Boseiju after Boseiju, so I think this can be probably really good. So the mana basis is slightly different. We still have Hidron Crab, Stitcher Supplier, Orcish Bowmasters. I'm also trying Orcish Bowmasters in the main deck instead of the sideboard. Why is that? Well, if everyone is playing blue, Orcish Bowmasters is good, of course. But not only that, I noticed that Bloodghasts, I had 3 Bloodghasts here instead of those Bowmasters in my previous list. And Bloodghasts sometimes, since they cannot block, sometimes Bloodghast can be a liability, especially if your opponent is ahead and you need a creature to block to have an extra turn, so then you can win the game on the next turn. So Orcish Bowmasters is a good thing because, well, of course, it is a value creature. But if you cast Thoughtseize or Stitcher Supplier on turn 1 and then Orcish Bowmasters on turn 2, you have guaranteed creatures for Hogaak on turn 3, for example. So this gives us something especially good to do on turn 2 when we don't have Life from the Loam in our starting hand or in our starting graveyard. So I don't think this deck is still great. I think I don't think it's ready yet. I think I need to do more testing with this new idea. But after my previous video, several viewers here on this channel seem to be really excited to keep evolving this new strategy. And I believe that we can build something even better after the new release. that we'll have right on the corner next week. There are some sweet Sultai cards or green-black cards that we can maybe test, and this strategy is something similar to this. So let's see. What about our sideboard? Since we don't have Orcish Bowmasters in our sideboard anymore, I'm trying today Noxious Revival. And this is a free spell, of course, but we can pay green mana if we need to save some points of life. And this can put target card from a graveyard on top of our library or in top of our opponent's library. What does that mean? Well, if our opponent tries to reanimate something, and that's include Thassa's Oracle, for example, we can cast Noxious Revival just to stop their combo or their reanimation spell. But this also can protect our own spells, and this can put a Barrowgoyf on top, for example, or maybe a land. Maybe we can keep one lander and put a second land on top if we really need to land, so then we can start loaming. This is a card that has potential in our strategy. Maybe we could even include Noxious Revival. I'm not sure if I'm saying this properly in English. Noxious Revival, is that correct? So, but this could be even be played in the main deck in our strategy. But I'm not sure about what to take from our deck to include it. But this is graveyard hate, but also a graveyard protection or graveyard manipulation. So this is a good card, and it's a free spell. And of course, the Land of the Void, bounce spells, Mindbreak Trap against some combo opponents, and the fourth Barrowgoyf. As I said before, I'm not sure this list is ready to play, but I'm sharing with you my new test with it. So I hope you enjoy this gameplay here with me. Click the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Of course, you don't need to play Dredge to enjoy Dredge gameplay, but I hope you keep enjoying new videos here with me in the future. So let's start this madness right now. Round 1, we are on the play. And this is a medium hand. It's not that fast, but our deck is not that fast. I would prefer a deck starting hand with a Thoughtseize. But being on the play with Orcish Bowmasters, Life from the Loam, and a Barrowgoyf, this starting hand can win against several opponents, at least on game 1. My opponent is mechrataal, and they also kept 7 cards, so let's start this with Misty Rainforest and pass. We have a Surveil land in our deck, so this will be probably Hedge Maze. My opponent has a basic swamp. Ooh. Oh, and Thoughtseize. Okay, let's see what my opponent will choose here. If they choose Orcish Bowmasters, maybe they have Brainstorms or cantrips, but if they choose Barrowgoyf, I would say that this is probably a Reanimator deck. Okay, they chose Barrowgoyf. Let's crack Misty and Surveil 1 with our Maze. Cup of Therapy. Okay, let's put it into our graveyard. We could therapy our opponent here. Okay, another land is good. I think I will cast Orcish Bowmasters and then sacrifice one of our orcs, naming Reanimate blindly, because this is a black deck and Barrowgoyf is such a good creature. I don't want my opponent to Reanimate or Barrowgoyf. Orcish Bowmasters dealing 1 damage to our opponent. And let's cast Therapy, sacrificing the token, naming Reanimate. Oh, 2 of them! Okay, this is blue-black Tempo Reanimator, the best deck and Legacy. And now my opponent can cast Animate Dead, unfortunately. But we took 2 Reanimate from the hand. This was good. Barrowgoyf is still only a 1/3. Let's... okay, Hogaak is good. We cannot cast Hogaak yet. I think I'll just play Stinkwood Imp as a blocker, right? My opponent can bounce it, but we can play it again. And if my opponent chooses another road, we can probably cast Hogaak soon. My opponent draws, plays Polluted Delta, so they have Ponder, Brazen Borrower, and something else. Okay, they don't attack, they are holding Brazen Borrower and maybe something else. Boseiju is an interesting one. We can destroy Animate Dead here, right? And have our Barrowgoyf back in our graveyard. This is turn 4. Let's loam back some lands. Let's see if this will resolve. Okay, it resolved. So I think I will just pass back, right? Holding Boseiju here if we... oh, Barrowgoyf now is a 0/2. Because Animate Dead gives -1/-0 to the creature. My opponent cracks Polluted Delta, Surveil land, so they will probably bounce something here with Petty Theft. They don't want Wasteland. Okay, they will bounce our sort of Death Touch creature. They play another Surveil land. Okay, they will attack with Barrowgoyf here. I don't want to lose our Orcish Bowmasters because my opponent has a Ponder in their hand. So we don't need to be afraid of Wasteland anymore. So let's destroy Animate Dead with Boseiju. And we can loam back Boseiju, but I don't think my opponent has that many Animate Deads. They probably have 4 Reanimates. Only 2 now because we forced them to discard 2 copies. Barrowgoyf is there. Okay, great. And okay, let's dredge because we have Hogaak here. And thanks to Hogaak, we can exile our creatures from our graveyard. Let's play a land first, cracking Verdant Catacombs. for Tropical Island. And now I'll play Stink with Imp. And this way we... Okay, let's cast Hogaak first. Exiling Barrowgoyf, Orcish Bowmaster, Supplier, and 2 lands. Let's see if this resolves. Okay, my opponent conceded. Woohoo! We won against our own Barrowgoyf. My opponent's start wasn't that impressive. They didn't have Entomb. So against my opponent... Okay, this is my first time playing with Noxus Revival, so I'm not sure if I'll play them with Leyline of the Void or just them. I probably want my 4th copy of Barrowgoyf, in case my opponent has Doubt Void Walkers. Let's try like that. We could play more defensively here with Leylines and Revivals, but several times against Blue-Black Reanimator, I prefer to think of them after sideboarding as tempo decks and not graveyard decks. Oh, this is almost good. Let's mulligan. Oh, okay, my opponent kept 7 and they might have a Thoughtseize or turn 1 Tameo or something like that. Maybe it's better to keep a hand like that without creatures, because my opponent can Reanimator creatures. And then we have, oh, Thoughtseize, okay. So we will not have Revival here. And then we can cast Therapy. Oh no, my opponent decided to put Therapy there. So they might have something really good in their hand that they want to hide from us. Barrowgoyf will be kept on top. We don't want to expose our Barrowgoyf just yet. My opponent draws and plays Basic Swamp. Entomb, alright. Atraxa. Okay, if they are doing that, it's because they have Force of Will or Daze, but we need to try. Yeah, they have Force of Will. Okay, my opponent had the turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 full combo in their hand. And okay, they have Doubt Void Walkers. Let's concede here, guys, and save some time. We will not come back from this. We have only 4 lands in our hand. Yeah, my opponent had the full combo. We needed a Leyline of the Void, probably. But now we are on the play. And let's just submit the deck back. Again, maybe we should try Leyline of the Void, but especially on the play, probably we can win with the right combination of cards. This is a keep. We don't have a Thoughtseize, but we have Therapy and Supplier. Loam plus Barrowgoyf. Let's see what my opponent... This is a keep because this is a hand that can win against the Doubt Void Walker. So that's why I like this hand. Let's start with Stitcher Supplier. Let's see. Okay, 2 Dredgers, which is good. We don't want to dredge yet, right? I mean, we have Life from the Loam in our hand. Let's see how my opponent starts. Only with Polluted Delta. So we probably... Okay, let's dredge here. Another Therapy. Let's attack first, right? My opponent will not kill our Supplier, I believe. So we can attack and cast Cabal Therapy twice and grab a Surveil land. I think this is the best idea. We could also just Loam, but if my opponent has a Reanimation spell in their hand, we should take it, or take them from my opponent's hand this turn. Down to 19, and now we cast Cabal Therapy from our hand first. If my opponent... Okay, my opponent has an answer. Maybe Entomb or Brainstorm. It's Entomb, alright. So we have 2 shots here to take Reanimate or Animate Dead from my opponent's hand. They might not have them yet, but we need to name Reanimate here like we did on game 1. Okay, my opponent had 1 Reanimate and Doubt Void Walker and 2 Murktides. I'm not sure if... If I take Doughty, my opponent will just cast Murktide Regent if they have land on top. Let's see what we have on top. Winternight Stories can be put into our graveyard. Unfortunately, we don't have a bridge yet. One thing that we could do in this deck is to add the 4th copy for scenarios like this one. I would like to take Doubt Void Walker and Murktide. Since I need to choose, we can always block Murktide with Stink with Imps, right? And maybe my opponent doesn't have a land on top. Part of me feels like the right call here is just naming Murktide Regent, but my opponent also has Fatal Push, so Fatal Push can destroy a Barrowgoyf with a single fetch land. So let's name Doughty Void Walker. Hopefully my opponent doesn't have a land on top. If they have, they will have just a small Murktide, and luckily we can come back from this. Okay, they had a land, Polluted Delta, and now they have 2 undergrounds. Yeah, this is Murktide time. Murk time! Just a 5/5. My opponent kept Atraxa, of course. Let's dredge here because now we will Loam back some lands. And then we can have a good turn 4. Boseiju and 2 other fetch lands. Boseiju was really good in our game 1, right? Winning us the game against our own Barrowgoyf. I should do this on my opponent's turn, but that's okay. Underground Sea is untapped, but we have nothing. We are representing Fatal Push here, but we don't have it. Okay, my opponent has Ponder. Orcish Bowmasters would be good now. Well, my opponent has Fatal Push, so not that good. They shuffled their library, and they attack with a 5/5. It's just a worse Shivan Dragon. And now we will dredge 5. We don't need lands for this turn. I want to find my Hogaak soon to exile my Barrowgoyfs. I fear that my opponent can have a Reanimate in their hand at any moment. So we'll cast a Stink with Imp here. My opponent can bounce it, but I think that's life, right? If my opponent can even destroy it with Fatal Push if they have a fetch. Oh no, you know what can be good? We can cast. Oh, my opponent has Force of Will. Yeah, change of plans. Let's cast Cabal Therapy, sacrificing our Stinky, because my opponent is not close to cast their second Murktide Regent. Not yet, right? Yeah, maybe we'll give ways. They have a Fatal Push. They can destroy one zombie. Okay, they will do that. They'll destroy our zombie here. And now we can take that Brazen Borrower. It's, oops, only 1A. Brazen Borrower. And now they have Force of Will and Murktide Regent. I could name Force, of course, but since my opponent allow me to do that, let's clean that. Now if my opponent has a land on top, they can cast Murktide, but then, okay, land. So my opponent will cast the second Murktide here probably, but then they cannot force or sync with Imp and we'll have a blocker. My opponent is definitely ahead on this game, but I feel like we have a window here to win, especially if we can play two Stinkies and Barrowgoyf. Okay, my opponent exiled Atraxa, so that's a win. And now they have a 7-7 and a 5-5. Oh, that means I cannot crack my Polluted Out anymore, right? Yeah. I'm down to 6. My opponent has only Force of Will in their hand. We will Dredge 5. More Stinkies, the better. Cabal Therapy is good for the future. Let's cast one of our Stinkies. And now we need to dodge this turn. So no Brazen Borrowers on top. I prefer to not see Brainstorm as well, because my opponent will have more options. And no Fatal Push. No, Fatal Push is okay because my opponents don't have a way to activate Revolt on this turn. So my opponent draws and play Wasteland. Okay. So we can block a Murktide here. My opponent doesn't know about our Boseiju, so we are fine. They probably think that we cannot crack Polluted Auto here, but we have an extra land in our hand. So let's block Murktide. And we have some zombies for our troubles here. Bridges will get exiled, but now we have 3 zombies in play. We are down to 1. A single Archbishop Masters win the game for our opponent. So let's grab our Stinky back. No Hogaak. Let's play Boseiju. We cannot fetch there. We need to dodge 1 extra turn. And then we will luckily play Barrowgoyf soon to stabilize. We can attack here because our opponent doesn't have a single answer for our creatures on the ground. Now what? My opponent is not attacking. Oh, great, great. My opponent has a blank. Let's dredge 5. Okay, now we have Hogaak. Let's play our second Stink with Imp. If my opponent has a blue card in their hand, they might... yeah, I doubt. And now let's cast Hogaak, exiling Orc, Barrowgoyf, and Barrowgoyf. Oh no, we have another Archbishop Masters there. That was on me. I was looking... I'm without my glasses, guys. I'm sorry. I was choosing Archbishop Masters because my opponent can reanimate an Archbishop Masters and win the game. So hopefully this will not happen. This was a punt. This Archbishop Master should be exiled by now. So now we'll pass a turn. We have 2 answers to Murktide. My opponent has Entomb. For days. My opponent doesn't want to draw days. All right. Guys, this is so tense. We can win the game. My opponent conceded. Yay. Yeah, because I think we just had a win next turn. I want to say thank you to all my patrons that you can see here on this page. Guys, you are awesome. And I can create content because of your continuous support. If you also want to help me as a content creator, please go there, check my Patreon page. patreon.com/thedredgeguy. See you there. Round 2. We are paired against Baasa. And this is a keep. This is our first grab hand this evening. So luckily this will be good. Oh, white. Oh, Guide of Souls. All right. So probably not Force of Will. Let's start with Thoughtseize, since we had an Underground Sea. My plan was, okay, this is a weak hand. Removal spell or Goblin Bombardment? I think the removal spell is threatening here because I want my Hedron Crab to leave. Goblin Bombardment is the best card overall. Let's take the removal spell because next turn we have Crab, Fetch Land, Black Mana, Thoughtseize. My opponent played Marsh Flats, so they'll play their enchantment after combat. Okay, we are down to 17. Oh, my opponent is passing. Maybe they have something else. So no Goblin Bombardment, eh? What my opponent can have at instant speed here? More removal? Let's try, right? Let's try to play our Crab. Polluted Delta. We mill 3. No answers from my opponent. We have Archbishop Masters, Winternight Stories. All right. So let's crack it again. Let's see if my opponent will... No? Okay, let's grab Green Mana Bio. We have a Cabal Therapy there. Let's start with Thoughtseize. Let's see what is the best card that my opponent... Oh, I don't understand. Maybe my opponent wanted to grab a Surveil land instead of... Not sure. Now I think I'll say bye to this crab. And let's name Goblin Bombardment. We don't have great spells in our hand, and I don't want to let my opponent have great spells. This is maybe wrong because we have so many fetchlands in our hand, and we don't have dredgers yet. So maybe this was wrong for me, from my part. But I was just too excited to take 2 cards in the same turn from my opponent's hand. So now my opponent has Plateau. They tapped, they untapped. Oh, they are targeting their own creature with Galvanic Discharge. So we have perfect information. My opponent's hand is just a land. And this Guide of Souls will be bigger. We'll draw Life from the Loam. Not the worst, but maybe we should just crack Cephalic Elysium here, guys. Let's draw 3, discard 3. Thoughtseize, this is not good. Not great hits, actually. I'll keep Loam in my hand. We don't want to cast Thoughtseize. My opponent is getting aggro here. And next turn we can cast Stinkwood Imp as blocker. We are playing from behind this, and that's why I thought of getting that Goblin Bombardment, because if my opponent can create several tokens in a single turn, and that card is pretty scary. Pride. Where are my Dark Blasts? In Modern we usually play with Dark Blasts, and I'm used to kill Prides with with my Dark Blasts. Okay, my opponent now has creature tokens. Let's grab our Stinkwood Imp, which is a great blocker, and unfortunately need to fetch again. Let's take the basic island here, just in case. And now I have a great blocker. If my opponent attacks again, we need to evaluate if it is better to block the Guide of Souls or the Pride, the human or the cat. They have 2 energy. We have 2 bridges in our graveyard. So if I can choose, I would choose to not exile my bridges, but we will probably need to block one of my opponent's attackers. They have only 1 card in their hand, and they are thinking. Maybe this is not an easy decision. They fetch down to 19. Oh, they passed the turn without attacking. That's good, because now we can do the same with another Stinky. So they don't have a removal spell. Maybe they have just a land. Another bridge is not the worst. No Hogaak yet. You see, I'm playing today with only 2 copies of Hogaak instead of 3. In the previous video, I had 3 Hogaaks. And I'm kind of feeling that, of course, we are already half of our deck deep, and we should have at least 1 Hogaak here, but variance works like that, right? So let's play our Stinkwood Imp and pass the turn here. We have more therapies. Next turn, hopefully we'll hit at least 1 therapy. Next turn, we can even cast Winternight Stories without tapping a Stinkwood Imp. Just as... Okay, my opponent played the land. And passed again. Alright. This is our moment. Let's crack Polluted Delta, just to guarantee our Underground Sea. Maybe you should grab Hedge Maze in the previous turn, but for a single moment I forgot that we still have Hedge Maze available. This is already turn 6. Let's dredge 3. Not great hits. I'll grab Cephalic Elysium, Polluted Delta, and Polluted Delta. This way we have more chances to hit at least 1 Hogaak or 1 Cabal Therapy. So dredge 3. Cabal Therapy is there, and Crab. Okay. Crab is good for next turn, but is also a blocker. We can even sacrifice Crab here just to have 3 zombies. Because we're already pretty deep into our deck, maybe we don't need Crab anymore. On the other hand, Crab can help us to just win the game next turn with Thassa's Oracle. So let's still play defense here. No rush. Oh, my opponent has a path to exile. We don't have basics anymore. Yeah, 2 Barrowgoyfs, Thassa's Oracle is there. 2 Hogaaks on the last 20 cards. Oh no, Voice of Victory. Yeah, with a Goblin Bombardment we would lose this turn. With a Goblin Bombardment in play, I mean. Now what? Let's see. My opponent will put some counters on the Ocelot Pride. I think we can block the Pride here. We don't need to kill it, right? We'll go down to 3, and this way we'll not kill any of our opponent's creatures, and this way we'll have some zombies. My opponent is Hellbent, so this is pretty safe. We still have 3 creatures, and we have a chance next turn to get to our first Hogaak and win the game. My opponent is up to 25 life. Yeah, let's dredge 3, because now we can guarantee that with Cephalic Elysium, right? Yeah. So let's be smart and grab our Cephalic Elysium here. Hedge Maze and anything. We still didn't hit a Hogaak, guys. We'll mill 3 cards, down to 14 cards. No, not Hogaak, but Red Return is there. And we will only lose if Thassa's Oracle is the last card here, because we will mill 13 cards. We'll dredge 13 here. Dredge 5. No Oracle. Dredge 5. No Oracle. Dredge 3. Oh, Oracle. Okay. Thassa's Oracle is there. Even without Oracle, we could put several zombies in play, but it will not be a win because my opponent has so many tokens. But now we have the win with Thassa's Oracle. Saving the day. This wasn't the better game for us or for our opponent. We have a mid-range graveyard combo deck, and my opponent has an aggro deck, but this was turn 7. So, okay. Now, against my opponent's deck. Lifelink seems good. Barrowgoyf will not be that good against Goblin Bombardment because my opponent can sacrifice the blockers, so no lifelink for us. But if they don't have Goblin Bombardment, lifelink plus Death Touch is pretty good against my opponent's aggro deck. I don't think we'll win with Thassa's Oracle anymore, especially on the draw. So maybe just that. If my opponent has Artifact, Graveyard Hate, or Enchantments, we have 2 Boseijus, but I don't want to include bounce spells against my opponent because they can play so fast. Just a single land. My opponent kept 7. Let's mulligan. 2 Hogaaks. This is still not good. We have Loam here. Let's keep and hopefully we'll hit a land on top. My opponent has Arid Mesa. Cracks it. Plateau. Esper Sentinel. Okay, so let's not play Life from the Loam on turn 2 probably. Okay, my opponent kept 7 cards, but this is a slow start for them. No Ocelot Prides. So I think I will just grab Hedge Maze and trying to hit our second land. Ocelot Pride and no land. No land drop. Okay, no land drop. My opponent's hand is probably gas, but they also need a second land. Let's grab our Hedge Maze here. Barrowgoyf, unfortunately, too slow. We need another land. Underground Sea is perfect. I think I would just place Teacher Supplier as a blocker here. We can mill 3. Oh, no other lands. I was hoping to see more lands so our Life from the Loam can get better next turn. But my opponent will probably attack, we will block, and then we can find more lands. Oh, my opponent is attacking with the Esper Sentinel. Let's block it. I'm all in for it. So we're down to 17. You'll mill more 3 cards. Just a Boseiju, alright. My opponent gains a token. Why they kept that hand? Another thought is, okay, maybe my opponent has 3 copies of Rest in Peace in their hand. That would explain. We have a thought seize. We can see what my opponent has in their hand right now. Everything is resolving, so no surgicals, no Fairy Macabre, at least not yet. Let's grab Underground Sea. And show me your secrets, opponent. I want to understand. What do you have? My opponent is thinking, okay, 3 copies of Voice of Victory. Where are our Cabal Therapies? And my opponent has a Fairy Macabre, so that's why they kept this hand. We should take the Fairy, unfortunately, because we want to keep loaming and hitting our bridges and everything. We have a Cabal Therapy there. Oh, my opponent found the Marsh Flats. So next turn we can play our Barrowgoyf, which is not blue, so my opponent's Pyroblast will not be that good unless they play Goblin Bombardment here. Oh no, it's 1 Voice of Victory. And this is so scary because now my opponent will get more and more tokens every turn. We have a Therapy there, no bridges, and Barrowgoyf we trust. But my opponent has a Goblin Bombardment in their hand, so Barrowgoyf is not that good, but I don't think we have a choice now. Our best chance to win this game is if my opponent messes up with their Goblin Bombardment. I think I'll play Boseiju here, just as a land. Maybe my opponent doesn't see how Goblin Bombardment is good against lifelink, let's see. Hopefully. Sometimes you must play, guys. Sometimes you have no chance to win a game, but unless your opponent do a mistake. This always can happen, and you will not play... Okay, my opponent knows what is going on. My opponent plays Goblin Bombardment before attacking. We are still alive. We can attack with Barrowgoyf next turn. My opponent will not win this turn. I think 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5. Yeah, we still have at least 1 turn. But I'm not playing removal spells in this build. Maybe I should include the Toxic Deluge on the sideboard. We should block the Voice of Victory, right? My opponent can sacrifice it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we're down to 6. Oh yeah, my opponent will have more tokens at the end of the turn because of the Assault Pride. For a moment I forgot about that. I should block Assault Pride. But this was over now because my opponent has more creatures in their hand. So it is actually hopeless. It was hopeless. Let's concede here and try to do better on the play. So we saw Fairy Macabre. Against Fairy Macabre, I don't see any differences that we would do. Our deck is designed to be good against targeted removal spells, targeting creatures in our graveyard, because we can cast creatures here like Barrowgoyf, Orcs. I would like to destroy creatures with Orcish Bowmasters against this opponent. That would be sweet. Round 3. Round 2, game 3. Okay, I think this is fine, right? We have 2 suppliers, 1 Thoughtseize, Loam. This is a good start. And 2 suppliers plus Loam is a good way to hit our Hogaaks soon. Thoughtseize can be really good on turn 1. My opponent had a mulligan to 6. This is not a stellar hand, but I think this is good enough on the play. Okay, my opponent kept 6 cards, and this will be 5 soon. Let's play Underground Sea, and Thoughtseize targeting my opponent. Okay, no Fairy Macabre, Static Prison, Esper Sentinel, Legion's Landing. We don't care about Pyroblast. I'm not saying that. We have only a few blue spells in this deck. Pyroblast is not that good against us. I think my opponent has only 1 land, but I think the best card here is Voice of Victory, so I'll take it. We could take the Landing or the Esper Sentinel, but both are good for our opponent. And we have suppliers, we have 3 lands, so I think we are fine. Esper Sentinel is not that scary. Another Loam. Let's play Tropical Island and cast a blocker. The Stitcher's Supplier. Oh, we have Breach and Cabal Therapy there. And we can pay for Therapy. Okay, let's do it. Let's sacrifice our Stitcher Supplier and pay the tax, pay the 1. So my opponent will not draw extra cards. And now what? Static Prison or Legion's Landing? I think Legion's Landing is the best card now. Legion's Landing. Another Voice of Victory, alright. And no lands yet. We have a good blocker and we have another Cabal Therapy. Let's take that Voice of Victory. Now my opponent has a useless Pyroblast and a useless, for now, removal spell. So I feel like another Esper Sentinel, okay. So Loam not that great now. I don't want to give extra cards to my opponent. Let's Dredge 3. Not great hits there. I'll play Stitcher Supplier as a blocker. Okay, now we have a good Dredger and Dredge Return. Let's play Boseiju here. I will not cast it. I don't want to give extra cards to my opponent. Okay, my opponent found the second land. Oh, will they spend Static Prison on Stitcher Supplier? Just to attack for 2, alright? Alright, my opponent is trusting the top of their deck. Maybe we should trust our top of our deck now, instead of dredging. Actually, we can dredge and cast Dredge 5, right? Cast our Sync with Imp, just as a blocker. We can do that again 2 turns in a row. And since my opponent has nothing in their hand, this might work this time. Static Prison needs to eat 1 energy. Maybe we can have this Stitcher Supplier, that Stitcher Supplier back and mill 3 more. Oh, a third Esper Sentinel. Alright, my opponent is not attacking. We'll Dredge 5 again. Oh, have Hogaak. Yeah, considering that, guys, if you want to mess around with this deck, I would recommend to re-include the third Hogaak. Hogaak is important to our strategy, and every time we wait too much to hit Hogaak, we are close to lose the game. We have 1 Breach, but we don't care about Pyroblast, so I will not cast my Cabal Therapy. And now we have our 8/8 Trample. And my opponent spent their Static Prison for nothing. I mean, just to attack, dealing 2 damage. They have something else. Staff of the Storyteller. Now they can start drawing extra cards next turn. But we can win in 2 turns here, right? And my opponent doesn't have energy anymore. Let's Dredge 5. Another Hogaak. Cabal Therapy. We don't care about Pyroblast. Yeah, I think it's fine. If my opponent wants to block, we will lose our Breach, but we are so ahead. We need to take advantage of being ahead here because my opponent can draw Path to Exile or something. So we have another Hogaak in our graves, so I think we will be fine. 8, 9, 10 damage. No blocks. My opponent is down to 7. Guys, I can cast Cabal Therapy here since we have... Yeah, that's such a good idea. Because we have 3 untapped lands, so I can pay for those taxes. We'll have a zombie, and then we can... You see. Instead of just playing another Sync with Imp as a blocker, let's do even better. The zombie token is ours. We still have 3 creatures, and let's name that Pyroblast that my opponent is holding. And now we'll cast Dredge Return, getting our Barrowgoyf back, which is a huge bitter, 2 extra zombies. And now we can tap our zombies to cast our giant Hogaak again. Just a beautiful synergy between our spells. So Dredge Return in this deck is actually pretty good in situations like this. We should consider Dredge Return not only as a finisher, but also... okay, getting Barrowgoyf is a finisher, but in case my opponent top decks another Static Prison or a removal spell, we still have a giant bitter to win the game next turn. Or sort of. My opponent draws a card. Oh, Caracas. Oh, Caracas is good. And my opponent is taking time here just to be sure that they can bounce our Hogaak. Caracas is really good. So our play was even stronger. And now we have even Stitcher Supplier here, which is a 1/1, but my opponent has only 4 small creatures. So even Stitcher Supplier has a good text here. Let's Dredge 5, a Therapy, and a Breach. Let's cast Cabal Therapy, sacrificing our Hogaak here, because we have 2 Breaches. And my opponent has Caracas and untapped Caracas, so we know for sure their intentions. Let's take some value before attacking. This way we'll have our 2 zombies. And at the end of the turn, we can cast Hogaak again just to tax my opponent's actions. So we'll pay the 1 3 times. What's the name here? Source to Plowshares? Goblin Bombardment instead. And my opponent chose to not play it because they need to bounce Hogaak. But now we don't have Hogaak anymore, so they might even crack Sunbaked Canyon this turn. Let's attack. Our Barrowgoyf will gain us 5 life, which is important in this matchup. Oh, they will block with several Sentinels? No? Okay, they want to protect their life total. But unless they play Terminus or another Wrath effect, we should win next turn. We have several zombies. And my opponent now has only 1 creature and Goblin Bombardment. I think I will cast Hogaak here just to tax my opponent's actions, because this way they have only 3 lands and one of them is a land that they probably want to sacrifice to draw an extra card. So let's cast Hogaak here. And now they have an option. They can draw an extra card or they can bounce Hogaak this turn. Okay, they bounced Hogaak now, just to be sure. And now they draw an extra card. They have 2 cards in their hand. One of them is Goblin Bombardment. They sacrificed Sunbaked Canyon, the Desperation, white mana, another Esper Sentinel. All right. Yeah, my opponent probably had a miscalculation here because we had blue, but we are not a blue deck. We are a Sultai build with Graveyard Synergies, so we don't have Force of Will or something like that. So Esper Sentinel not that great against our deck. And we won. We are 2-0 with our build of cards. Round 3. And by, this is a keep. And by build of cards, I meant a pile of cards. So this was fast. One opponent connected into the order. My opponent starts with Scalding Tarn, Volcanic Island, and Ponder. We have Thoughtseize on turn 1, Life from the Loam on turn 2, Barrowgoyf on turn 3. It's a good start. And we are pretty good against Wasteland. My opponent shuffled their library, which is good considering that we have a Thoughtseize. Supplier is also good. But let's start with Thoughtseize. Show me your secrets, opponent. Oh, Ghost Vacuum on turn 1. Guys, you see? This is a show and tell deck with Ghost Vacuum on turn 1. Game 1. I mean, this is what I'm living these days. So I've been better, and so has the legacy format. We need to take the Vacuum, right? But at the same time, I kind of want to take a Traxa and deal with Vacuum in the future. Hopefully my opponent doesn't have 3 mana immediately here. Okay, Scalding Tarn. Oh, Lotus Petal was the top card. Now my opponent will have a turn 2 Attraction. We can still win, but it will not be easy. We can put Barrowgoyf in play, I believe. Yeah. So at least we have a Death Touch Lifelinker that will grow through the game. But my opponent has a Death Touch Lifelinker as well, a 7/7. And now my opponent has Ponder, Brainstorm, Volcanic Island, Sneak Attack. Let's clean this. Okay, my opponent has 7 cards in their hand. This is probably what they have. So no forces. This is good. Boseiju, not the best right now. It is good against my opponent's Sneak Attack. Let's play Stitcher Supplier. See if our Barrowgoyf gets bigger. Not almost there. We have Winternight Stories, but our Barrowgoyf unfortunately is still a 3/4. We could cast Winternight Stories if let's take our H-Maze, if it was a 4/5 instead. Let's see what's on top. Another island. So let's mill it, and now let's attack with Barrowgoyf. My opponent will probably not block. We'll go back to 20. So this is not over, guys. My opponent had a Show and Tell Atraxa, but we had a Barrowgoyf in our hand. But since they have Sneak Attack plus Emrakul, this is probably a harder matchup. Okay, we have Orcish Bowmasters there. My opponent has Ponder and Brainstorm. Unfortunately, we cannot... Yeah, considering that, I think we can grab a Citrus Supplier instead of Orc here, because my opponent will definitely play everything they can that turn and then cast a Sneak Attack to put Emrakul in play. So Stitcher Supplier at least will go deeper into our deck. My opponent Brainstorms and Ponders, didn't shuffle, played Volcanic Island and Lotus Petal, so next turn they have a Sneak Attack guaranteed. Atraxa hits us, we are down to 13. We need our Cabal Therapies, where are they? Whoa, we drew one. Okay. With Supplier, this is really good because now we can... Okay, let's think here about the order of our plays. We don't have perfect information about my opponent's hand. They might have a counter spell. So let's play Cabal Therapy here, targeting them. They still have a Brainstorm, I believe. And okay, it resolves. So let's name Brainstorm. 2 Brainstorms, all right? Force of Will, Show and Tell, Emrakul, Sneak Attack. Let's keep thinking here. This next Cabal Therapy will take Show and Tell. So my opponent cannot cast Force of Will anymore. And I am pretty confident that we will hit at least a second Therapy with our Winternight Stories. We have 2 copies of Winternight Stories there, and we still can play one land to play Stitcher Supplier. I'll play Verdant Catacombs so we can thin the deck just a little bit. Now I have Underground Sea, and I'll play Stitcher Supplier because we don't have a Dredger there yet. Supplier mills 3. Okay, now we have a Dredger. There's always a chance that the top card of my opponent's deck is not a land, so they need to just wait one extra turn to put Emrakul in play. But I would prefer to be sure this turn, because if my opponent has a land on top or mana, they can put Emrakul with haste and we'll just lose everything. So let's cast our Winternight Stories here. I'll tap Barrowgoyf. We need more permanents, and this will go deeper than just attacking with Barrowgoyf. So Dredge 5, Dredge 3, Command Therapy, 1 bridge is good. We have a Thoughtseize in our hand now. We couldn't hit any therapies. We have 3 therapies on the bottom 26 cards. Now to win this, we need to be lucky. I will discard 2 Dredgers. We need to be lucky here. Let's see if we could take Emrakul instead of Show and Tell, but okay, my opponent is attacking us with Atraxas. That means they don't have mana on top. We're down to 5. Okay, Sneak Attack is there. They have Force of Will and Emrakul. Now I have several ways to play this turn. All of them starts with Dredge 5. We have a Dredge return there. We don't have therapies. We have 21 cards in our deck, and we have 3 Dredgers there, 5, 3, and 3. Let's start with Thoughtseize, tapping Bayou. Oh, my opponent had a Fluster, so now they have only Emrakul, and we need to hit our second Cabal Therapy this game. We still have 3 Cabal Therapies. We have 1 Winternight Stories. We have Hogaak. We can still play a land. We can also just cast Boseiju, activate Boseiju to destroy Sneak Attack. This is also possible. But I think I will just play for a win, guys. I'll try to play for a win this turn, because we already have a Dredge return there. We only need Breach. We only need 1 Therapy to guarantee the win this turn. And we couldn't hit a Therapy. This is a huge failure, guys. This is a huge failure, because now we can... Oh, this is so bad. Let's attack with Stitcher Supplier. Now we are dead to Atraxa. We are dead to Atraxa, unfortunately. We have 10 cards left in your deck, and 3 of them are therapies. We can destroy Sneak Attack, but we are dead to Atraxa in the air. Alright. Let's concede. Let's concede. If I knew that for sure, we would not... Let's see, where are our therapies? Let's... One of them... We could attack with Barrowgoyf just to have some life gain back and then destroy Sneak Attack. This will be... Okay. The last card was a therapy, and we had another one next to it. Choices. Let's try to do better. This is a new deck, guys. I'm doing my best here, but this was probably a mistake. I played for a win. Let's just submit the deck back. I played for a win, and I lost. On the other hand, if I destroyed my opponent's Sneak Attack and my opponent's top deck's Show and Tell, they will put Emrakul in play, and we could still win the game next turn. So maybe I was too eager to win the game, too anxious. I could wait a little bit more to have the win next turn. Yeah, let's try to do better on our game 2. Okay, this is a crab hand. Let's skip it. Being on the play, this is a good hand. Being on the draw, this is not that good. But since we are on the play, this is the difference between evaluating your hands between being on the play and being on the draw. This is a good hand on the play. Let's grab an Underground Sea here, and we'll start with the Hedron Crab. What's the sound of a crab? I would like to give you an impression of a crab, but I have no idea. If you know how is the sound of a crab, how's a crab, you know what I mean. Let me know here in the comments. Okay, my opponent has Ghost Vacuum. Maybe you can win against a Vacuum here, especially because we have fetch lands. So let's play 1 land here. We can hold Orcish Bowmasters in case my opponent has Brainstorm. Nothing that good, so my opponent can exile 1 card of our graveyard, but nothing that good yet. Okay, they chose a Barrowgoyf. Hopefully they don't have the full combo in hand, right? Ponderer. So let's cast Orcish Bowmasters. Tropical Island is good. We'll mill 3 more cards here. And let's see if my opponent has an answer, because my opponent might have Force of Will or Fluster or something. Not Fluster, because this is a creature, but they might have stuff. Orcish Bowmasters threatening our opponent here. My opponent exiles our Stinkweed Imp and cast Brainstorm in response. Okay, so this way they will guarantee their value without giving us more army, more orcs to our army. And I hope you noticed what I did here. I waited to crack my fetch land on my opponent's turn, not only to suggest that I had something, but to play around Ghost Vacuum. Because if I had Stinkweed Imp in the graveyard last turn, on my own turn, my opponent would exile just a Stinkweed Imp, and now they would have an untapped Ghost Vacuum. So now, on our own turn, we have the chance to do great things and Ghost Vacuum instead. My opponent is thinking here, maybe they have a Force of Will. Or maybe they are just thinking about what to put back to shuffle with Ponder. Either way, they are thinking a lot. Harvey-Dent. Oh guys, it was not my opponent who was thinking a lot. It was my connection here that had some issues. So let's restart Modo. Okay, getting back. Okay, our arc resolved. So we'll hit our opponent dealing 2 damage this turn. And my opponent used their Lotus Petals, so it will be harder for them to combo with Show and Tell now. They shuffled their library, so they chose to shuffle some cards after that Brainstorm, and now they played a fresh Thundering Falls. They kept 1 card on top, that's pretty scary. And now their Ghost Vacuum is tapped. Now it's our turn. Winternight Stories, that's an interesting card. We have Loam and Supplier here. I don't think we... Well, let's dredge first. Maybe we can... let's mill first. Maybe we can dredge some dredgers, and Winternight Stories is actually pretty good. Let's see. I'll guarantee my Underground Sea before Crab triggers. Okay, Thoughtseize, Loam, and Island. Teacher Supplier, Oracle, and Orc. So no Boseijus yet. I would love to have some way to dig for a Cabal Therapy this turn. So let's cast Winternight Stories. Just because my opponent kept a card on top. The art of Winternight Stories is missing here. That's because I restarted Magic Online, I believe. Sometimes when you do that, some artworks just stop showing to us. So Dredge, 1 Therapy, great. And another Arc for next turn. So let's discard 2 cards. We'll discard 2 Loams. In this case, if my opponent wants to get 1 of them, I will not complain. And now we'll attack with everyone. Hedron Crab doesn't need to attack, but let's deal 3 damage to my opponent. And I believe the obvious choice here is just Show and Tell, right? Because my opponent had a Brainstorm, followed by a Ponder with a Shuffle. So, and now they kept 1 card on top. So the obvious choice here is just a Show and Tell with this blind Cabal Therapy. We could also name Atraxa or Emrakul here, even in Sneak Attack. But I think Show and Tell is probably the best choice. Let's sacrifice Crab here because Orcs are still good. And I'll name Show and Tell. Oh, Sneak Attack and Brainstorm instead. All right. So maybe my opponent has a way to win the turn in 2 turns from now. We have another Orcish Bowmasters in our hand. So they will just play Sneak Attack. We don't have Boseiju yet. Oh, they probably have Atraxa in their hand right now, right? Atraxa or Emrakul. So let's try to hit another Therapy. We have Winternight Stories there. What is that? Oh, it's a Cephalic Coliseum without the art. So let's go deeper with our Stitcher Supplier. We have a Boseiju there. If we find a Hogaak here, we can win the game this turn. Let's grab some lands. Is this the best idea? My opponent has Ghost Vacuum, so I think they will just exile our Boseiju now. Yep, we still get some lands back. We play Hedge Maze. Hopefully we'll have a good card on top, and this Cephalic Coliseum is a ghost. Cabal Therapy. Oof. This is what we wanted. This is what we needed. Now what? Let's do this now. Sacrificing Supplier in case we hit Hogaak. Okay, Cabal Therapy is resolving. It is resolving. Let's name Emrakul, because we can win against Atraxa, but we cannot win against an Emrakul. Maybe Atraxa is actually the best card here because my opponent probably have... Oh no, just stock up. Because my opponent probably have more Atraxas than Emrakuls in their deck. And now we had a Hogaak there and Dredge return, so life is good. We cannot win this turn because we already played our land for the turn. I don't want to cast this Dredge return right now. We don't have bridges yet. So let's just pass the turn. And this is good because now we have 7 permanents in play. So if my opponent has an Emrakul on top, after that stock up or Brainstorm, Emrakul will destroy several cards, but we'll still have a Hogaak in play. And we can win with a single Hogaak. My opponent is casting Brainstorm. 3 hits with our Orc. Desperation. My opponent will go down to 7. They still can win this. They have lands. So if they have Atraxa, they can still win this. They played a land and Ponder. Okay, now they need Seaman Spirit Guide, Atraxa, trying to stabilize. Down to 5. This is still game 2, guys. We lost game 1. My opponent passed the turn, so we just win. We will dredge 5. Now we have a bridge. We could win through our combo with Oracle, but we have the win with our creatures. My opponent will exile our Oracle. Yeah, we cannot win, of course. We had another Boseiju there. I don't care about Ghost Vacuum, I just want to hit you, dealing lethal damage with our sweet Orcs and Hogaaks. Orcish Bowmasters, huh? This card has some potential. More players should try Orcish Bowmasters in their decks. Well, what now? I still think our deck is just fine against this. We could include Mindbreak Trap. I don't think so. But this time we are looking for a hand with Disruption. This hand has Cabal Therapy. My opponent is money into 6. Cephalic Coliseum is still ghosty. It's a new effect of Magic Online when your card has this a shadow card. Guys, maybe this is wrong, but I'm feeling tempted to keep this hand. With a good shot on turn 1 with this Cabal Therapy, we can disrupt our opponent's hand for good. Let's see. Okay, they kept 6 cards. Maybe this is just wrong and my opponent has a turn 2 combo and we cannot hit our first. Okay, just Ponder. Let's see if they will shuffle or not. They kept 6 cards, Volcanic Island, Ponder, and didn't shuffle. So, and Lotus Petals. So because of that petal, I believe they have a combo for turn 2. We have just a land. Let's play Bio. And this is it, guys. I will name Show and Tell. Hopefully my opponent doesn't have a fluster here. Nope. Show and Tell. Oh, 2 copies! 2 copies of Show and Tell. Nice Atraxa, opponent. Nice Atraxa. Now what? I know, guys, I might look a little bit like a bully here because if you watched carefully, now my opponent has only a set Atraxa in their hand. If you watched carefully some of my previous videos, you know how I'm feeling Boseiju in our graveyard, how I'm feeling tired of just fighting against Atraxa decks, right? So let's name Atraxa. So it doesn't matter if it is Reanimators or if it is Show and Tell, Sneak Attack deck, Omnitel with Atraxa. Sometimes you play a league like I'm playing today. Another petal, all right, you have mana. And all of the 5 decks have Atraxa. So now I'm feeling confident about this because my opponent is Hellbent. They need 2 pieces of their combo and we will have a giant Barrowgoyf. So far just a 3-4, but it will get bigger soon. We even have Cephalic Coliseum and Life from the Loam here. More mana for our opponents. We need to hit our opponent probably 3 or 4 times here. Thoughtseize is useless. Let's get some lands back here. And now I'll play Polluted Delta. I'll grab a land just to fin the deck. I'll hold Boseiju here in case my opponent has a Sneak Attack next turn. We'll grab Archibald Masters, which is even better. Let's play it immediately here, putting my opponent down to 15. And now we probably need just 2 more turns to win this game. My opponent has something. Simian Spirit Guide, alright. It is a creature, it is a blocker. We'll dredge 3. We have Orc there, Thassa's Oracle, nothing that great. Let's draw 3, discard 3 here. Or maybe let's just put Loam in our graveyard first. Because everything I want here is to have a giant Barrowgoyf. And this is the faster way to do that, right? Putting a Dredger there. And now I'll attack with just a Barrowgoyf. Let's see if my opponent wants to block. They will champ block, okay. In response, let's... Even if I exile some of my bridges, I don't care at this point. I want to have more life. Okay, no. Oh, have Dredge return already. And Winternight Stories and a Hogaak. So I'm feeling confident, guys. I'm feeling confident. We are up to 24 life. Let's cast Hogaak from our graveyard here. We'll have lethal next turn, so I don't think my opponent can come back from this. They will need stock up plus the combo to win next turn. And we are pretty ahead with 24 life. We could draw 3, discard 3 there, but I think we don't need that anymore. My opponent has Ponder. They shuffle the library. Orcish Bowmasters will deal 1 extra damage and my opponent concedes. We are 3-0, guys, with this pile of cards. Round 4, guys, we are paired against Wischingas. And this is a keep, not that exciting, but since we are on the draw, this will be so good with a single land. And so far so good, right? We are 3-0. As I said at the intro, this is not perfect. Okay, this is not a perfect deck. I'm still having ideas how to improve it. This is a new concept here. And this is probably our nemesis. This is a green deck, a depth deck, or a lands deck. Let's see. Bujukabog is there. My opponent didn't choose Bujukabog. Okay, they chose Wasteland instead. But we have only 1 land in our hand. And now we have Cabal Therapy. Yeah, my opponent has so many ways to disrupt our game plan. And when I built my strategy here, I wasn't thinking on green lands, green decks. So our deck is still not tuned to win against green decks. Green decks usually are our nemesis anyways against any dredge deck or graveyard strategy. But our current list here, we need a incredible good hand with Thoughtseize, Cabal Therapy, disrupt our opponent's hand, and then win with creatures after that. And my opponent can always stop deck a crop rotation and stop our plan. Well, at least we have lands, more lands than a traditional dredge deck, but okay, our dredger can be put into our graveyard. But my opponent has Saga, let's see. We will not dredge, of course, we will draw. Another crab. Guys, we will not win this. Let's try to do better after sideboarding. Here I would just play a crab and trying to hit another land. My opponent will start making constructs. And this will not be good enough. Urza Saga, my opponent's deck definitely have a Graveyard Hate like Soul Guide Lantern in their main deck. So we'll probably lose against this deck anyways. If I am expecting to fight a green deck with this deck, we should probably include other stuff here instead of Noxus Revival in the sideboard. So let's just submit the deck back without any changes. Now we are on the play. We don't have anything really good in our sideboard to fight against a Lens. Leyline of the Void is always a consideration, but my opponent can definitely win without a Leyline. Well, without the graveyard, I mean. Okay, back to game 2. We are on the play now, with a better hand, hopefully. This is equivalent of a mulligan to 4 or 5. I don't think we can win against the Lens with this hand, so let's try a better 6. We don't have black mana. This would be good with black mana. Stitcher Supplier, Hogaak on turn 2. Try to win from there. Okay, this is our best hand. This has Thoughtseize, Stitcher Supplier, Cabal Therapy, Orcish Bowmasters. So Dredge Return. Orcish Bowmasters is not that good against Lens, right? Let's keep it, because if our Stitcher Supplier hit a Hogaak, since we have 2 Misties here, at least it's a fine way to cast a fast Hogaak. So we start with Misty Rainforest. My opponent kept 5 cards, so we have a chance. Underground Sea here, and Thoughtseize. Show me your secrets, opponent. Fairy Macabre, Exploration, Life from the Loam. Only 2 lands, but Loam is pretty good. Guys, I will take Exploration here. This will put a break into my opponent's actions, and we can win against a single Fairy. It will not be easy, but we have a chance against Fairy. We definitely will have not that many chances against Exploration plus Loam. And now what? I think it's a Stitcher Supplier plus Hedge Maze, right? We could cast Orcish Bowmasters here. Let's hold Orcish Bowmasters here, just to guarantee some damage, some early damage. Because maybe my opponent gets a slow start. Maybe they just draw more Loams and not that many lands. And we can at least hit our opponent dealing more damage. And then if our Stitcher Supplier... I'm doing that because if my Stitcher Supplier hit a Hogaak, we should not give our opponent a window to exile Hogaak. We are dealing 1 damage to our opponent. Life from the Loam. Okay, let's mill 3. Oh no! We will have only 5 cards in our... Okay, we don't have Hogaak. Oh, for a moment I was so worried. Because if we... Oh no, we could cast Hogaak here. I'm sorry guys, I'm tired. We could cast Hogaak here because we have a Stitcher Supplier, so we only needed to exile 4 cards. Let's grab Tropical Island here. I'll cast Loam. We don't need to pay life to tap Cephalic Coliseum, thanks to Yavimaya. Let's see if my opponent wants to use their Fairy Macabre right now. No? Alright. And we can hit our opponent dealing 2 damage. They have Fairy Macabre and 1 Loam and 2 unknown cards in their hand. This is a slow start, but this is solid. Especially because we took our opponent's Exploration. My opponent is thinking here. Maybe they are looking to our graveyard to exile something, but maybe they have a crop rotation. Let's keep that in mind. I think my opponent drew a crop rotation in the last 2 turns. Now they have Once Upon a Time. Or maybe this was the case. My opponent had an Once Upon a Time and they didn't cast a spell this game yet. This is their first spell. Once Upon a Time. There were some Dredge guys. Wasteland. Okay, my opponent can Wasteland my Cephalic Coliseum here. If they don't do that, it's because they definitely have crop rotation. And if they have crop rotation, we will probably lose this. So now what? Dredge, Cabal Therapy. Let's attack with everyone. Yeah, my opponent definitely have crop rotation here. Let's put them to the test here. Let's cast Cabal Therapy, targeting them. Or maybe... I'm sorry guys, I'm tired. It's getting late for me, but I should do that. We should do this play here before attacking. In the case we could take a crop rotation from my opponent's hand if they are feeling lucky, and then even finding Hogaak in the same turn. But now, only if we hit some bridges. Anyways, my opponent definitely have crop rotation and we are lost. Let's see. I will mill only useless cards head there, not Hogaak. Yeah, crop rotation is there. And now they have the combo. We don't have flyers, and we cannot get flyers here on time. What is our chance? My opponent still has Fairy. Those were pretty good top decks for my opponent. So Once Upon a Time, crop rotation, Wasteland. It was enough to win, thanks to Thespian Stage. Okay, my opponent is using their Fairy Macabre. This is not the right timing to do that, but they are going to win anyways. Only Loam and Ancient Tomb. There's a small window here, a pretty small window, that we can draw something. Okay, we have Hogaak now. There's a super small window here that we can hit Dread Return and Stink with Imp. with this Stitcher Supplier. This would be our only way to win here, and we need to hit. We don't have bridges. Let's see. We'll mill 3, and this is why my opponent's activation of Fairy Macabre was too soon. Yeah, we had Stink with Imp, but no Dredge return, unfortunately. Let's concede. We had a way to at least hold a little bit more. Let's go to our final match. Final round, and now I have my glasses because it's getting late here. And okay, this is a keep. My opponent is a fellow Brazilian. Hopefully, we'll have a good match. This is a good start because we have a Thoughtseize on turn 1, followed by... Well, actually, this Boseiju is not the best hand. This is not the best land with this starting hand. We would like to have access to a second black mana source, but it's still a good keep with Thoughtseize and some enablers. Oh, my opponent is going deep to 5. Maybe a combo deck? Oh, to 4. Oh, my opponent knows that I play Dredge, of course. So maybe he's just trying to get some some technology against our deck in the main deck. Let's start with Thoughtseize. Oh, my opponent is thinking. He told me here, what about this? Okay, the One Ring, this is Mystic Forge. So we can take the Flute, we can take the mana, or we can take the One Ring. I think I will take the One Ring here because it's their only payoff. My opponent told me, I was waiting your Dredge, not this different deck. I told him that I'm testing a different build today. So let's take the One Ring, right? And hopefully my opponent will not have another payoff anytime soon. Because after this, our hand is kind of slow. Okay, my opponent has a green monolith. Now they have Flute, and he has a Flute and an unknown card. We drew our other black source. So maybe you can have a fast Hogaak here. Let's grab Bayou, and now Stitcher Supplier, Meeting 3. Winternight Stories is good for the future, but let's find a Hogaak. Yeah, I definitely need to put the third Hogaak back into this mix. 2 Hogaaks are not enough. If we really want to hit a fast Hogaak, we need at least 3 Hogaaks in the deck. So maybe only 3 Orcish Bowmasters, or maybe you can just go back to 3 Bloodghast and 3 Hogaaks. Oh, now I'm thinking here, we have Boseiju in our hands, so maybe Boseiju is good against... Maybe no, Boseiju is definitely good against my opponent's deck. Next turn we'll start... No Hogaak, unfortunately. We'll start Boseijuing our opponent's lands and artifacts. Hopefully they don't have a... He doesn't have a turn 2 the One Ring. We are ahead, we have 2 zombies. 2 small zombies, 1/1. Not even a 2/2, just a 1/1. Okay, Urza's Workshop. So much mana. We are screwed. Cozy Lex command. Alright, so X equals to 4. My opponent will scry 4, draws a card, and now they have he has several Eldrazi tokens. Yeah, since our graveyard wasn't that scary, my opponent chose to scry instead. So he has 4 remaining mana. If he finds the One Ring, they can play the One Ring now. Karn is also a good hit. A second Cozy Lex command is not the worst. Mystic Forge would be a sweet hit for my opponent here too. Okay, he kept 2 cards on top. The key, alright. So he still have Disruptor Flute. For a traditional Dredge deck, the correct name here would be probably Cephalic Coliseum, but we are not playing a traditional build. So I'm curious to see what my opponent will name here. Winternight Stories, yeah, we have a Winternight Stories there. So this is actually a good name. We have 2 copies of Winternight Stories. Let's Dredge 5. We have a Cabal Therapy, but my opponent is Hellbent. My opponent kept 2 cards on top. The first was the key. The second is probably a good hit. The key was important to my opponent, so he can untap the green monolith. Let's attack with our Stitcher Supplier. I don't think my opponent will block here. Oh, my opponent is blocking. Oh, okay, he will take this opportunity to untap the green monolith. I don't think this deck have wastes. Maybe they have 1 waste, but probably not that much. Not that many copies of wastes. Maybe 1, maybe none. Let's see if my opponent has something here, because now he will have only 3 remaining mana after this. He probably wasn't... Yeah, no mana. My opponent probably wasn't expecting Boseiju. And now if my opponent's top deck is a Karn or another 4 mana cost spell. Yeah, my opponent just passed back. Great, Boseiju is amazing. Let's Dredge 3 here, and we'll grab Boseiju back and 2 other fetches. It doesn't matter. We unfortunately don't have enough mana to activate Boseiju this turn, but that's fine. We have a Cabal Therapy in our graveyard, so we have a blind hit here. Let's grab Hijmaze first. Okay, Thoughtseize is not relevant at this point, so let's just Yeah, I don't think that this is relevant here. Let's put this into our graveyard. And I think I'm afraid of Karn. But this could also be a second One Ring or Mystic Forge. We could also just wait, but let's not wait, right? Let's mill 3 cards and see what's going on. I'll name Karn, the Great Creator. Oh, Ugin. Oh, I see. My opponent had enough mana to cast Ugin, but now they don't. He doesn't, because we destroyed the Green Monolith. And now my opponent has mana, so 5 mana. So let's dredge 5 here. And I believe we should keep disrupting our opponent's lands. I cannot let my opponent cast Ugin. We could just cast Hogaak here, but if my opponent top deck another land, we will just lose the game. Let's attack. This is interesting. This is my first time playing with land disruption in Magic the Gathering. I never played land disruption before this situation here, but this is what we are doing today. Yeah, let's pass a turn. And it doesn't matter, but on my opponent's draw, let's disrupt that. We'll destroy Ancient Tomb. This is a sweet feeling. I understand why Pox players like to play their decks. Yeah, my opponent is back to 3 lands. Okay, he has a Glaring Flash Wrecker. It's fine, but now we have enough mana to grab Boseiju back and activate Boseiju in the same turn. So now we can destroy Ancient Tomb, and my opponent will have only 1 mana. We play a land, and we destroy that. Back to 1 mana. Basic lands are good, guys. Remember that. Basic lands are good. And now, let's see. I mean, of course, my opponent's deck cannot play basic lands, but it's a price to pay, right? Okay, yeah, our strategy is working. Let's grab our Boseiju back. We have a Cabal Therapy there now. Not that we need to cast that Cabal Therapy, right? We can probably wait a little bit more. Let's destroy my opponent's remaining land. This is so nasty. No lands for you, no mana for you, opponent. I think we can wait 1 more turn to cast that Cabal Therapy. Next turn we maybe have another land from my opponent. This will be destroyed as well. And we'll do that until we can cast Hogaak on the same turn. So we can grab Boseiju, 2 other lands, it doesn't matter. We don't have other fetchable lands, so at this point we want to hit Boseiju, or second Boseiju, or Cephalic Coliseum. So we can cast Stinkwood Imp in the same turn, and also destroy one of our opponent's lands. What a game! Boseiju, huh? Boseiju, the best dredge card. Who could imagine that? We can discard our bridge. Next turn we can make at least 1 zombie. Yeah, my opponent considered the match. And my opponent noticed that this is pointless. But against this opponent, my opponent probably have Leyline of the Void. Even if my opponent doesn't have Leyline, Into the Football can bounce something that we can force them to discard after that. But usually, Mystic Forge decks have Leyline these days. Sometimes other stuff, but usually Leyline. And my opponent is so good against graveyard decks. This is a bad matchup for us, guys. Let's not celebrate yet. We had that window of opportunity to surprise our opponent. But now we will not do that. My opponent will come back prepared to fight us back. So I don't think we'll win with Thassa's Oracle against this opponent. Our best shot is probably hitting, or I don't think Barrowgoyf is especially good against my opponent's deck, because if my opponent has Eldrazi tokens, he can just sacrifice them before Barrowgoyf gains some life. But if my opponent doesn't have a Glaring Flash Wrecker, Barrowgoyf can get huge. Especially because my opponent is an artifact deck with instants, with different lands and enchantments. So this Barrowgoyf can get huge even if my opponent has a leyline. So sometimes your opponent playing Mystic Forge will mulligan until they find a leyline, and you just put the Barrowgoyf in play and win the game in a few turns. We could include Mindbreak Trap here instead of Stitcher Supplier maybe, but Supplier is still a good way to put several black creatures in play before my opponent can get rid of our first or second Hogaak. I don't know. I know that on the draw this will be harder. My opponent is still sideboarding. Okay, this is a medium hand. We have Supplier, we have Therapy, but this can be good against a leyline. We need only 1 more land. Let's keep it. We have a draw spell, we need our 3rd land. And this is another consideration here. We probably need an extra land in this deck. We are playing 19 lands. We probably need 20, at least. But we are a Loam deck as well, so... But in situations like this, I would prefer to have access to 3 lands guaranteed, because sometimes, since we have those utility lands, Cephalic Coliseum and Boseiju, 3 or 4 lands 4 or 4 lands, if you consider the basic island, can provide only 1 color of mana. My opponent kept 5 cards without leyline. So I think I'll go for a blind Cabal Therapy here. Cabal Therapy is not Thoughtseize, but this matchup is so bad. Okay, this is not fair my card because this resolved quickly. Let's name card the Great Creator. Okay, this is a good 5-card hand. My opponent has a Flute, Flash Wrecker, and Kozilek's Command. I wonder what my opponent will name with that Flute now. Urza Saga, so 2 mana. Probably my opponent will name Boseiju here, but hopefully my opponent will name anything else. We don't have Boseiju in our starting hand. We have our 3 lands now. We had a great draw in our tropical island. Yeah, my opponent is thinking here. Hopefully he will not name Cabal Therapy. Even Boseiju is fine because we don't have Boseiju now. Okay, my opponent is naming Boseiju, but we need this therapy here. Oh, another one. Unfortunately, we don't have enough black mana in our hand. This is the second time this league that this is happening. We usually want at least access to black mana on turn 2. Oh, we have Hogaak now. Can we wait? My opponent has no guaranteed mana here. Can we wait to cast that Cabal Therapy? I think I'll wait. Let's be patient. I think we have great chances of winning this game if my opponent has no other land in his hand. If he has only... Or maybe... Oh, okay, no lands. Great. Great. So now we have this chance to put Barrowgoyf and Hogaak in the same turn. Let's play our Cephalic Collision. We'll name Barrowgoyf. Oh, we name it. We'll cast Barrowgoyf. And we'll cast Hogaak. And then we can cast our Cabal Therapy. So everything according to the plan. And this is a completely different game compared to our previous one, right? This is a turn 3 with Disruption, and we already have Barrowgoyf and Hogaak in play. We mill 3 cards, Barrowgoyf comes back to a 3-4, and we'll name Glaring Flash Wrecker. We could name Kozilek's Command, but since my opponent doesn't have... Okay, he has Mystic Forge and Monolith. This is still not over, guys, because this Urza Saga now will pop. If my opponent hits a land, mana, this will probably be a Mox instead of a Graveyard Hate piece now. He can maybe cast Kozilek's Command or Mystic Forge this turn. Manifold Keys, so my opponent has Green Monolith. Alright. Yeah, now it will be bad. It is not that bad because it's not the One Ring, so my opponent will not have protection. And we have 2 Giants in play. But my opponent can maybe combo off now with Mystic Forge. 5 mana, I think he's thinking on playing Kozilek's Command or Mystic Forge here, because Kozilek's Command could exile Barrowgoyf, I believe. My opponent could exile Barrowgoyf and create 3 tokens and then cast Monolith. And then I will attack dealing 8 damage because Hogaak has Trample. Okay, my opponent decided in favor of Mystic Forge. So he's seeing the top of his deck. And he's passing the turn. So it's a good card for the next turn, but he cannot cast it immediately. Into the Flood Maw is so interesting here because we have a Cabal Therapy. We can bounce our opponent's Mystic Forge and name it. Or we can name anything else, because Kozilek's Command is also a good name. So let's see what Barrowgoyf will find. A Stitcher Supplier, just a small Stitcher Supplier, okay. Let's take it. And now let's think here, because there are so many combinations of order spells and ordering our spells here. I can cast a Cabal Therapy first. We can cast Cabal Therapy twice. I can also cast Loam here to have access to 2 black mana. Or we can just assume that Mystic Forge is the best card from my opponent's hand. The thing is, my opponent has something good on top. Something that he thinks might give him the win. So how we lose this? I think we'll just play defensively here. This way we can cast Cabal Therapy twice in the same turn. I think this is probably better. Let's cast our first therapy there. And I will name Kozilek's Command. Other stuff is, my opponent's top deck might be not good enough to win if I take his Kozilek's Command and Basalt Monolith. So maybe the right play is just taking his both cards and forget about Mystic Forge. Okay, let's bounce Mystic Forge. Or maybe... Okay, guys, I will hold into the Flood Maw one more turn. Because if my opponent's top deck allows him to get an Ensnaring Bridge or something like that, we will still have an answer into the Flood Maw. So let's just forcing him to discard Basalt Monolith. Considering that we have 2 Giants, this Barrowgoyf now is a 7-8. We have the win, hitting my opponent with Hogaak or Barrowgoyf probably, especially because Mystic Forge needs 1 life to be activated. Oh, my opponent had mana on top. And now a Disruptor Flute. Please don't name Into the Flood Maw. Anything but Into the Flood Maw. We need Into the Flood Maw to win probably. Urza's Tower is good because now Planar Nexus also taps for 3 mana. Force of Vigor, this was a good name. I'm not playing Force of Vigor, but I was almost trying to include Force of Vigor with Golgari Throw in the main deck instead of Stinkweed Imp. I had this thought before changing the deck. We could try, especially because now I'm using Noxus Revival in the sideboard. So this could be a great card in our sideboard in the future. My opponent activated Mystic Forge and Key. He's Hellbent. My opponent is giving us the GG's. GG's opponent. What a match, guys. 2-0 against Mystic Forge. This is one of our worst matchups for a regular Dredge deck. And somehow I think we are just favored. Because of Boseiju and because of our game plan with creatures, with Hogaak, I felt like we were just favored against Mystic Forge. So weird. So weird. We have great wins here. We lost against lands, of course, but we have some great wins. Let's talk about our new deck. What can I say, guys? I think... Oh, glasses. I think this deck has potential. This is not a ready product yet. If you want to play this in your at your local game store on Friday Night Magic, something like that, this is probably good for a test, for a run. This is not perfect yet. We did 4-1, but we probably had the surprise factor in our favor. Our opponents seemed like they were not ready to understand what was going on with our deck. We have some sweet things going on here. Let's try to understand why we had this great result. So, Thoughtseize combined with Cabal Therapy and a creature on turn 1 is pretty good. We had several opportunities to sacrifice a Citrus Supplier on turn 2 for an early Cabal Therapy, and then having some value, and Hedron Crab sometimes was also sacrificed sooner, just because we felt that we needed to resolve a therapy on turn 2. So the combination of 8 small creatures that can be cast on turn 1, plus 8 disruption spells, Thoughtseize plus therapy, this is pretty good. And this is something that we need to consider keeping moving forward. Even if you don't have Hedron Crab, for example, even if we feel that Crab is just too much in this deck, and we are trying to do too much, maybe you can put another black creature, a small black creature here, that can also work, or maybe a green creature that can mill or surveil, something here. But this combination of 8 and 8 was pretty strong. What else? Hogaak is a beater, and we saw like Hogaak can be a good threat even against the top tier decks that are running over Legacy currently. So Hogaak is really good. The combination of Life from the Loam and Synchro Imp is pretty impressive, because Life from the Loam gets our lands back, and Synchro Imp is a great blocker. Synchro Imp can be tapped, so we can cast a Hogaak. We for sure need at least a third Hogaak here. On several moments, I have the feeling that we had more fetch lands in our hand that we could use, because we are using 10 fetch lands just to have the best use of Hedron Crab. But if we don't play Hedron Crab, or maybe if we still play Hedron Crab, we can maybe go to 9 or even 8 fetch lands and have more lands here. Maybe more utility lands, or maybe more black mana. I felt the need of more black mana at least twice in this league. And I feel the absence of green or blue or black conflagrate, something that could hit our opponent, dealing 4, 5, 6 damage, discarding our whole hand. Something that could discard cards for value, like Psychic Frog. Unfortunately, Psychic Frog is banned in Legacy, because, you know, Psychic Frog was too good in Blue-Black Reanimator. But luckily now Psychic Frog is banned, and we don't need to worry about Blue-Black Reanimator anymore. What else? Thassa's Oracle and Dredge Return. We had some opportunities to win with Thassa's Oracle here. After sideboarding, I almost always was siding out Thassa's Oracle, because against Graveyard Hate is not that useful. Here, I feel like we can win several times without our combo with Thassa's Oracle, even our combo with Winternight Stories. In the previous league, with the first build here, the first version of this build, we had more combo finishes, and today we have more Hogaak finishes, more finishes with lethal damage instead of the combo. But I still like the Winternight Stories as our only draw spell of the deck. In regular Dredge builds, usually we have Faithless Looting, Breakthrough, Careful Study, even Otherworldly Gaze, more cheap enablers. But this time our enablers are our creatures, and then we want to hit a Hogaak, so this is why definitely we need a third Hogaak back. Maybe you could try a new build without Thassa's Oracle, but this is just a low opportunity cost, right? Just including one Oracle here, I think it's still a good thing. Orcish Bowmasters, we had some opportunities to win with Orcish Bowmasters, and several opportunities to win thanks to Barrowgoyf. But I'm not sure if Orc is a 4-off in this deck. In our previous build of this deck, we tried 3 Bloodghast instead of 4 Orcish Bowmasters, and they were also good. a faster way to put black creatures in play if we have nothing going on. On the other hand, Archetypal Masters can be so good against blue decks, so this is debatable. And 3 bridges. I would like to include a 4th copy of bridge here, especially if we have our 3rd Hogaak. We could try even a 2nd Dredge return, because sometimes we can just get the Barrowgoyf back if we don't have Hogaak yet, and have some zombies for value. I mean, everything is possible. Boseijus, of course, were impressive, especially in our last matchup. So I think Sultai Dredge, at least for me now, this build, or maybe the Loam build that we also had here in the previous month. And actually, if you want to see me playing that build again, because that build had 64 cards instead of 60, maybe we can go down to 62 or maybe 60 cards in the future. But both of them will definitely have a copy or 2 of Boseiju in the main deck. This card is just crazy good against some decks in this metagame. We had an opportunity to destroy and animate that to win the game, land disruption as we saw in our last match, and only having this in your main deck against graveyard hating artifacts or enchantments, this just feels right? This feels right. What about our sideboard? Noxus Revival had some moments there, but I'm not sure if it's still that good. When we tried to put an Atraxa on top of my opponent's deck, my opponent had the Force of Will ready, so not sure. Maybe this is just a free space, so we can try other things. Into the Flood Maul was pretty good. The 4th copy of Barrowgoyf is good, but is this something that we want in our sideboard? Not sure. Mindbreak Trap maybe is something debatable here. The thing is, we didn't need that many sideboard cards in this league, which is something that tells us how good this mid-range strategy can be, even without that much support from extra cards. So I think that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed this experiment here with me, and I will keep pushing ideas like this here in Legacy. Click the like button, subscribe, leave a comment below. This is the most efficient and free way to support me here as a content creator. And if you really want to support me, consider checking my Patreon page. There you can even support me with a small amount of money. And this way I can even produce more and more content for you. Hopefully you enjoy this and the next video. See you soon. Bye.